So, I have been meditating off and on for decades. Consistently, I've been doing it every day for the past 8 years. My journey to meditation as a regular, sustaining part of my life has striking similarities to my path of commitment to racial justice. So, walk this path with me. They both are part of who I am. They both challenge me, frustrate me, and push me in ways I could never have imagined. And they are life-affirming, spirit-filling, and they are two ways that I live out my values as a person of faith and a Unitarian Universalist minister. So I was always drawn to meditation. However, I couldn't make the commitment. Like my commitment to racial justice, I would start and I would stop. I had all good intentions of making this way of living a part of my life. Maybe you know that kind of a journey, that sort of a thing you know that you should do, the decision you know you want to make, the change you know is calling out to you. On again, off again, that cycle. So, this is how I changed. 8 years ago, a friend of mine gave me a book about meditation. And actually, the true story is she said to me, "You know, my therapist gave me this book about meditation. I have never read it, but I think it might be helpful to you." So, I said, of course, I'm being the person I am. I said, of course, I'll read the book. So I read the book, and in this book, the author asks the reader to make a 30-day commitment to meditation daily. Starting to sound a little familiar now why I'm weaving these together. 30-day commitment. 30 days that we had committed to spending our worship focused on issues of whiteness, white supremacy, racism, power, and privilege. Maybe some of you said, I can do that. 30 days. So I read this book on meditation, every day. I read the passages, I reflected on what they mean. Sometimes the author had me doing things and writing, and I sat in meditation. I have to be honest with you, I was really happy as the month was drawing to a close. Finally, I could get back to meditating as I wanted to, which meant when it was convenient, or fit into my busy life, or I was so inspired. On the last page of the book, the author wrote, and I'm paraphrasing, but I think the words are pretty close because they were drilled into me. He wrote this: "So now you've come to the end of this book and this month. Hopefully you've gained new awarenesses, and despite its challenges, hopefully you actually feel better than you did when you started. Congratulations. Now, to keep on growing, you must continue this practice every day for the rest of your life. For you cannot go backwards. If you stop after this month, you're likely to find yourself off balance, unsettled, knowing that you're missing something critical to your wellness and growth as a human being." Needless to say, I wasn't very happy when I read that. I felt tricked, and I was in a bind. Because you see, I actually had to admit that daily meditation was making a difference in my life. Made a difference in my relationships, my outlook, and that even though it was not always easy, I often felt like I was messing up. It certainly didn't always seem convenient, and yes, sometimes it was incredibly uncomfortable. It had started to become part of who I was. And I had a choice. I could go back to what I had been doing 30 days earlier, although I actually knew in reality I could never go back to the way that things had been. Or I could embrace this new practice and make it a part of my everyday life. I could allow it to ground me, sustain me, push me, connect me, transform me. I made the commitment 8 years ago to continue, and I am so glad that I did. In fact, I wouldn't be who I am today without it. So learning about racial justice and taking steps that are uncomfortable, being a student in this arena, risking things that I never thought were possible, going where I don't always want to go, and doing it anyway, like meditation. That's what this process has been for me. And I am not comparing meditation and the work for racial justice in terms of their impact on people or society. I'm not in any way minimizing that responding to injustice as a moral and spiritual imperative. What I'm talking about, however, as we close this month, is the process of change, and how making a decision, even when we know it is the right thing to do, even when we know it is good for us, even when we know it reflects our highest, best selves, making that decision and making that change is inevitably hard. We resist. We put things off. We try to forget that we need to make this change. So what is the key ingredient to any effective and lasting change? I've thought a lot about this, and I come down on willingness. Because without willingness, nothing else takes root. We must be willing to recognize that something needs to change. We must be willing to accept what actually is right now, and then we must be willing to take action. So it's the awareness, the acceptance, not guilt, and the action. But it is willingness that underpins all of those things. Because without willingness, we can remain oblivious. We can remain in denial. Without willingness, we can be aware of something, but then make excuses about why it's too hard, or maybe not even necessary to change, or maybe what really of a difference would it really make. And finally, even when we've become aware, for example, learned that racism is oppression, as I shared in my first sermon, and that it is not going away, and that we are a part of the system of white supremacy, and that we all can do something, even if it is simply changing our thinking. Even when we accept the truth of what is, even then, if we are not willing to take action, nothing will change. Nothing. In fact, things will most likely get a whole lot worse. Because when we know what is wrong, when we accept that it really needs to change, but then we still act the same way as we always did, it is worse. We are unsettled, thrown off balance. We know we are not being consistent and authentic to who we are called to be. So I ask all of us, as we draw near the end of this month, and we start shifting into thinking about what comes next, where is it that you need willingness as it pertains to the issues of whiteness, white supremacy, racism, power, and privilege? Do you need to be willing to learn and gain more awareness? Do you need to be willing to accept yourself? or to accept others for who and for where they are in their own journey with this work? Do you need to be willing to do something different? Where is it that you need the willingness? Ask for that willingness, my friends. Pray for that willingness. Surrender your comfortable status quo and step onto the path of willingness. I'll meet you there. And I know that many, many others that are here will as well. So many of you have asked, so now what? What are some of the next steps? And certainly I cannot answer that question in its entirety, but I have some suggestions. There are a few things that I want to highlight this morning, and other things that we'll be highlighting over the days and the weeks ahead, for this is a long road. This is a lifetime journey. It is a way of living, being, and acting in the world. So one of the things is we now have an FPB, First Parish Brookline Justice Group, which is using the Signal app. Does anybody have the Signal app on your phone? Anybody have that? Raise your hands high. So through this secure application, we're actually going to promote events, and we're going to allow First Parishers to connect with each other at things like rallies and gatherings and events. We did this for the Women's March, and it was pretty awesome. Now, Nathan, Frida's, where are Nathan? He's in Spirit Play. Beloved Nathan. But Nathan is actually one of the developers of this application. You may or may not know that. He's humble. He wouldn't probably have told you that. He actually is one of the people that developed this application, so he knows it incredibly well and understands the benefits that it can bring. He's going to be at a table and coffee hour this week and for the next 2 weeks, and he will help any one of us sign up and learn how to use it, starting today. And we actually have a first-time real event that we're going to use this application for to help organize ourselves around. It is around supporting the resolution to change Columbus Day to Indigenous Peoples Day in Brookline. We need every person here and more to fill Town Hall when this resolution is brought before them. We need those rooms to be packed. Now, here's something rather inconvenient. They're not sure what day that's going to be. They don't know, I think it's the 15th or 16th, or, it's like, it depends on how the agenda moves. How many people have the time and the ability to go and to sit in these meetings for hours, one day and maybe another? We have an answer. We, if you sign up on this Signal application, will be letting you know now is the time to come. The rooms aren't filled. Get here now. You need to be here. Here's where we are. Meet us there. And we'll be doing this for many other similar events. So I encourage you all to become a part of that community. Another thing that we can do, real time, right now, absolutely critical. Our community partner, Centro Presente, is rallying support in this state, in Massachusetts, for temporary protected status, or TPS, which is a form of immigration status that provides employment authorization and protection from deportation for foreign nationals who cannot be safely returned to their home countries. As with DACA, TPS could be terminated by the Department of Homeland Security at any time. In early November, decisions are expected about whether TPS will be extended for people protected by the program from Honduras and Nicaragua. The executive director, Patricia Montaz, who spoke here, is asking us as partners, as individuals, to contact our state legislators this week. Because I also happen to know something. There is a legislator here in Brookline who has said no. doesn't need to be that way, folks. You can do something. So see Ellen Blaney after the service. She'll be standing next to Nate. If you want to know exactly what you can do, get some phone numbers and a script. Finally, just one other thing I want to highlight is a year and a half ago, you voted and we allocated funds to bring in consultants to work with us on these difficult conversations about taking our commitment to racial justice to a whole new level. So we began that work after a long process of finding the right people to do this with us, who really understand us and know what it is we're trying to do and are committed to walking this path with us and guiding us through it. We have Dr. Darnisa Amante and Reverend Eric Jackson from DEEP, and they are working with us. Some of you have signed up already to be on the planning team for this. There are going to be at least 2 opportunities for the entire congregation to participate in workshops and conversations. When you see those things offered, please participate. Please come. There's childcare, there will be food. There is no reason we can't fill Lyon Hall. And there are a lot of other things you could do. In fact, so many that here's what we're doing. We have a list of suggestions. I think there are 15 of them right now. There are copies of this list that you can get on the way out today that are very specific things you can do when you leave here. I'm challenging each of us to do at least one of them. At least one of them, including starting a spiritual practice. And if you want to understand and talk about why that's imperative to this work, I would be happy to talk to you. But here's what's really super cool about this. This list, it's not my list. It's our list, right? So I don't want to hear that I didn't put something on the list, or why didn't I point out People's Cafe on November 4th? Why didn't I do those things? This list is going to be up on our website, accessible to everyone, and it is something, a Google Doc, that you can add to. This is our work. It is not the work of the Diversity Caucus. It is not the work of the Immigration Justice Committee. It is not the work of the minister. It is our work. So, there's a tradition in Unitarian Universalism that when a minister is being ordained, one of our colleagues, generally somebody who knows us really well, gives us a charge. This is during the ordination ceremony. And the charge that they offer takes what the seasoned minister knows about the person about to become a minister, including their gifts, their challenges, their goals, their dreams, and they take all of that and they integrate it with the conditions of the world, and they charge us for our ministry. So in honor of that tradition, and being cognizant of the fact that your commitment to racial justice, to dismantling racism and disrupting white supremacy is part of the mission of this congregation, and that you will be doing this work for a long, long time, dependent not upon a minister. I want to conclude this month of our ministry by charging you. Because, my friends, I know you. I know your gifts. I know your challenges. I know your weak spots. I know your dreams. So this is my charge to you. First Parish in Brookline, as your mission statement says, you are a congregation that is called by love, sustained by community, and committed to justice. You strive to be a welcoming, diverse, and loving congregation that nurtures spiritual growth for individuals and families, celebrates multicultural community, and works together to demand social justice, dismantle racism, and care for our living earth. If I could take each one of your hands and I would say this: as you carry forth in this work and live into this mission, may you be ever mindful of the love that is in this room, that has been guiding this work and that has been part of this covenant, of this congregation for 300 years. May you treat one another and all people with respect and dignity. May you value your differences and grow individually and collectively because of them. Be kind to one another. And remember that every person is doing the very best they can at that moment. Never assume that you know one another. Take the time to hear each other's stories. Forgive yourselves and each other. Be authentic and true to who you are. And in this work towards racial justice, have forbearance. When some of you are tired or weak or distracted, others of you need to step in and step up without blame or rancor. Challenge yourselves. Do real work. Care for your partnerships that you already have. Never underestimate the differences that you are making, and at the same time, always maintain a right-sized humility. Be willing. Do the work. Love one another, and never give up. Amen, and blessed be.